Is this thing on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back. You are listening to episode number 7 of the Achievement Horse podcast, brought to you by XboxGamer.me. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Sniffles.
Hey, we got an exciting podcast lined up today.
Yes, we do. I think we spoke about it last week. We talked about the Evolve Beta, how I killed Steineken. I just put that in there because I know he's listening. He actually did really awesome as the monster. But anyways, we talked about the Evolve Open Beta. We talked about Dying Light that was coming.
Yeah, we said about the delay of the physical copy outside of the US, which has now been given an actual release date of the 27th of February, which is quite a big delay, and I'm kind of upset because I don't want to spend lots of money on a digital copy.
Yeah, so now you have to get a digital copy if you want to play with me on day one. So
we'll see.
So what we have is we're going to talk about, let's see, what have we been playing this week? Unmechanical Extended. So we'll have a review coming up for that. Let's see, it's going to be Friday. Is that the 30th? Yeah, Friday. So that'll be out Friday. I have some achievement guides that are going to go up. You'll see those on the site. They'll be out Friday as well. In addition to the following week, we have The Escapist. I'll have some guides up for that and a video review, which will be pretty awesome. I'm still playing it, actually. So we'll have that stuff coming. But the big thing that we have coming, we're going to get to in just a second. We talked about this last week. We had a surprise, so we had that surprise, and it worked and went very smoothly. Thank the podcast gods for that. So this week, we looking at the news on the site. We threw up some reviews. We have Thomas Was Alone. I think he put Forza Horizon 2, the Storm Island DLC, which was cool. I still have yet to play that. I did play a little bit today.
Do you have the DLC?
Yep, I do, and I do, and that's actually something else that we're going to have I'll have some video of that as well, in the future. Lots
of rain.
Just to show the rain, yeah. It's actually kind of fun to play in the rain. We were doing donuts earlier today in the rain.
On the airstrip.
Max was streaming to Twitch and hosted on the Xbox Ambassador stream, and so we were screwing around on there. It was pretty fun. The other thing we have, Trials Fusion got multiplayer.
Ooh.
Do you want to talk about that, or should we just skip over that?
No, he was joking. Me and Maxon had, I think NPAC, Wapak joined us as well, another friend of ours later, and we did, I'd say, for about an hour's worth. We just got carried away and trying out new multiplayer, and it's really good fun. Same style as the local multiplayer, where you have everyone on the same, exact same track. And you can see where people are and if they're close to you, and it gets pretty tense, and you get nervous and you screw up, and it just reminds me of what I enjoy about Trials, and it makes me want to play it again, not for achievements, and just play it for fun.
Yeah, I know. Nice. I've been challenged a couple of times. I need to get on there.
It's definitely worth doing, and it's even if you're doing the same level again and again, you get to practice and you have your own techniques, and so I feel I'm pretty good at Trials, but I haven't played in a while, and
You're a little rusty
I was a little
out of the
rusty.
gate.
Maxon beat me on a few, and it knocked me back a bit. I wasn't sure what was going on.
Right.
But I won a few, he won a few.
Could we just blame it on you or excited?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
and
that's what we'll say.
Trials DLC out on Tuesday,
Yep,
which if you're
got that
listening is going to be today.
today, probably.
Wow,
Yes.
I like talking about the future.
Yeah, we're talking about the future and the past.
Yeah, think about that. So that's going to add another 250 gamer score, bringing it to a total of 2,000, which hopefully I'll manage to do that day. Scratch won't ever do it.
I won't.
But I hope you stream it.
I will stream it. I'll stream next week.
And
I'll
definitely watch it because it's fun watching him get extremely angry.
Right, and try not to rage quit.
Yep. Persevere. Rage, persevere.
I guess the only other thing we had was a big shout out to Access Games. Their Games for Gold Dark Dreams Don't Die
just hit 1 million downloads.
Hit over 1 million downloads. That's huge. That's amazing. So hopefully the game that we're going to talk about right now we'll be talking about next month with a similar
result
milestone.
I think it'll be more.
So with us here we have Mike Mika of Other Ocean, and we're going to cut to a pre-recorded interview we did with him. It wasn't really an interview. We just kind of spoke with him about things surrounding IDARB, surrounding him, who he is in the industry, and just kind of get a little bit behind the curtain with what's going on, and even some stuff that's coming soon, which one of those would be the fact that everybody is going to get IDARB Games for Gold in February. And if you didn't know that, you know that now, and you're definitely going to want to check it out. We'll have videos and everything up on the site, and we will do we'll have a big launch party on February 1st.
I seriously wouldn't miss out on this game. It's unlike anything you've ever played, and it's going to be a lot of fun once everyone's got it.
Yeah, I can't wait. So just to kind of give everybody if you haven't heard of it, or if you have heard of it, we're just going to give you a quick overview of what the game is. And basically, this game started as a tweet, and we talk about that. But the game started as a tweet and kind of molded into this community-based sort of like feedback, adding things into the game, and they just sort of kind of went crazy with it and ended up producing one of the most amazing games that I've played in terms of like, innovation, and you just don't know what to expect. I mean, like IDARB is everything.
I don't know what category you'd put it into.
It doesn't have one. Like IDARB is the new other. So there's like role playing, and there's adventure games, and there's top down shooters, and there's first person shooters, and there's IDARB games. That's what I think needs to happen. It's in a league of its own. So basically the game it's like a sports game. So like you have two characters, or no, you have one character, but you have your character on one team and then another team of characters, local or co-op or online. And basically you're just trying to take control of a ball and get it from one, just kind of like, it's like basketball and soccer, and
it's everything in one.
Every sports ball game that you could think of is like take the ball from one end of the court or field or arena or whatever and score. And that's in its most simplistic form, and the fun doesn't stop there, because you have what they call hash bombs, and we talk about a lot of hash bombs. And basically, if you have your account connected to any Twitch channel, or if you tweet to
a specific account.
I think it's at IDARB something. I'll have to get that. I'm totally blanking right now, but we won't let that hold us up. But if you tweet to it or whatever, it'll actually affect their game. So, like, for example, if you do like the ice, hashtag ice or hashtag snow or whatever, like it makes the court like all snowy and
so it does
slippery
things,
for a second and
to
affects
affect
everybody.
every player. Scratch's favorite one to use is the hashtag reverse, which switches your controls around.
Right. It is.
It just makes it really fun to play. And they're just really crazy different things that can happen to your game, and you never know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, there's all sorts of customizations you can do, custom characters, custom banners, like your team flag, for example.
And create songs.
It's got a whole bunch of like little Easter eggs in there. I'm going to have some videos about a few of those up on the site. And it has a whole bunch of throwbacks to like a lot of old school games. For example, one of the halftime games is Combat. It's like a remake of Combat. If you guys ever played Combat on like Atari, or I think there's probably PC ports and old games or whatever that that kind of copy it, but it's basically like your two tanks, and you just play this old school game, and it's amazing. There's a couple of others actually as well, but a lot of them are throwbacks to those games and say, hey, like you can really tell where the developers come from. Like they have a strong background in games and doing a lot of the things that we all grew up doing, or maybe we're still growing up doing them now. But it was very nostalgic for me to watch and play this game. So we'll put a bunch of links. I'll have a bunch of links in the post of this podcast. You can get them at xboxgamer.me. So I will link to everything that we are talking about. I will link to all of my videos that will help explain the game more. You can get an idea, because you guys are all getting this for free if you're an Xbox Live Gold subscriber.
Which most people are. Also, you can add in the post on the site, just links to our gamer tags, and more than welcome to add us, and we'll happily play with you, jump in your Twitch streams.
Yeah, there's an achievement. There's an achievement for us posting in your to unlock an achievement, and I'm going to be handing out that achievement on February 1st before the Super Bowl. And I'm actually going to make there's actually recipes in the game I'm going to make and take to the Super Bowl.
Like actual food recipes.
Actual real food, yeah, no joke. So without further ado, we bring you the interview that we had earlier today. So thanks for listening, and it's going to run a little bit long. I think we're about an hour from this point, maybe a little longer. So be sure to check us out. We will be back next week with lots to talk about. Did you have anything else before we jump over there?
No, just enjoy it. It's definitely worth listening to the whole way through. Really, really great guy. Loads of cool stuff about his life and what to see in the future with IDARB.
And even some insight about what's coming. He talked a little bit about that, what you can expect. So you're going to want to pay attention. Okay, well, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the conversation we had with Mike. I drink your milkshake! Okay, everyone, and as we said earlier, we have Mike Mika with us to discuss the upcoming Games for Gold in February, IDARB. So welcome, Mike, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So we just wanted to kind of talk about IDARB. It's a big hit. I think in December my Twitter feed pretty much blew up because of the genius idea of naming the game a hashtag, so it shows up everywhere like that. That seemed to work well. And then also you're like the Twitter ninja. I think it's impossible to tweet about IDARB without catching your attention.
You're the retweet ninja.
Would you agree?
Yeah, it's like driving my family crazy because my phone's always going off. I'm like, just a second, I gotta make sure I keep this going.
At the dinner table,
right? We were
exactly.
Sniffles and I were talking about, what if we tweet him at like 3 a.m, California time? I bet we get a response.
You probably would.
It's pretty funny. So I guess just we just want to talk a little bit about just the development of the game. But before we get into that, you actually have quite a history in the video games industry. This is not your first dip into the industry.
No, I started. Well, like I have a hard time always figuring out where to say I started, because when I was probably like 10 or 11, I was making games, but then and selling them at the local computer store. But then by the time I'd say real professional game publishing took place was probably around 96 and 97. And like my first game, actually the first published cartridge game, and I always start there because like back then everything, if you were on cartridge and you're on a store shelf, you made it.
Right.
It was a version of Yar's Revenge, an old Atari game for the Game Boy. And after that, it just kind of took off. I was making games for Game Boy, then I made games for Game Boy Advance, PSP, PC, everything. And I've touched just about every platform since the Game Boy. And before that, it was all various home computers. And I probably worked on now. The last time I was trying to update my list, I think I'm almost at 200 games now, which is just it's not something to be proud of, because more than half of them are really bad games. But you do your time, you make money doing that. So
right. And so with the coding, I did read the story about you had coded Donkey Kong for your daughter to play as the princess.
That's right. That's
or to say.
I think most people who heard my name for the first time probably heard it related to that story, because it was like 2 years ago now, and my daughter, she was 3, and she really enjoyed playing Donkey Kong with me, and I thought, it'd be great, let me just show her the other Mario games. So I introduced her to all the Mario games, and her favorite was Super Mario Brothers 2, because you get to play as the princess. So she really loved that, but it was a little too difficult, and she could actually play Donkey Kong. So we went back to Donkey Kong, and first thing out of her mouth was like, how do I play as the girl? Because she was looking at the girl at the top, and I'm like, I should be able to play as her, right? And so, I make games for a living, so it was one of those things where she said it kind of stuck in my head, and then the next day I'm like, I can hack that. Like, I should give that a shot. That'd probably be pretty cool. And so I started, Kevin Wilson, who's one of my my partner here on engineering on IDARB, he pointed me to some tools that would be very useful and everything like that. And I think it was like a Friday night I just started, and by morning I had it all swapped around. You could play as Pauline, and you're rescuing Mario and all that stuff. And I was posting as I was making progress. I kept posting it to Facebook and Twitter. And a lot of my friends just would take that. They would. I remember Adam Boyes, who's now over at Sony. He's like, "Do you mind if I post this on Reddit?" I'm like, "No, go for it. I don't really care." And I didn't. At this point, I didn't even really know what Reddit was. I know everybody talked about Reddit and everybody went to it, but I didn't know anything about it. And so it was kind of funny, because the next day, I had to go to this charity event for my son's school. And on the way, my wife's like, don't even have your phone on, because whenever you're there, all you do is you look at your phone and all stuff. Like, we've got to have, time with our friends here and stuff. And I'm like, all right. But I left it on anyways in my pocket. It just kept going off while I'm at the party. And I'm like, I finally told my wife, I'm like, what if it's the babysitter? I better go check this out. So I went to the hall, and I have all these text messages of people going like, your story's blowing up. Your story's blowing up. I'm like, and I freaked out, because I do things like podcasts, and I'm like, what did I say that offended somebody? Or what, like, some horrible thing I shouldn't have mentioned. Like, did I announced some like hardware we're working on I wasn't supposed to announce or something?
It's like you immediately assume the worst.
Exactly, as I'm prone to do. So like, I finally called my buddy, and he's like, that Donkey Kong thing's exploding. It's everywhere. And I'm like, okay. So I'm looking online, and the story had made it to like, I forgot where it was on the front page of Reddit, but it had like creeped all the way up to the front page of Reddit, and it was like getting picked up everywhere. And then by Monday, we had like television shows calling up. They're calling my parents, trying to track me down, who live in Michigan, and all that stuff. I remember my mom calling me, going like, so today CNN and Good Morning America called. They're really nice. You should do the show. So I'm like, but she's my agent now. But it was like my 15 minutes there, and I think a lot of people, when they see my name, they think of that or remember that. And but that was kind of like, I've been making games for 20 years to that point, basically, and it took that Donkey Kong hack to get my name on the map.
Right. Swap 2 characters around, everybody knows.
Yeah, and those who are like programmers are like, you didn't even do anything. That's so easy.
She must have gone to bed, woken up the next day, and you're like, oh, yeah, it works now.
Yeah, that's what it was. Like, I had her play it. She actually liked it, but then by the next day, she was like, can you do that with Dig Dug? And it's like, oh, God. I've got this whole... Now I've got to hack all these games.
All right, that's funny.
Dig Dug. So for those... sorry, did you just have to switch, like, just reanimate the princess?
I hacked the ROM and I pulled all the graphics out, and I could see where Mario was located. And Mario isn't just a drawing of Mario. He's like broken up into 4 pieces, actually 6 pieces when he's larger and stuff like that in Super Mario Brothers stuff later. But Pauline, who's at the top, is actually bigger than Mario. So I had to figure out how to take Pauline and then create all the additional frames, but also shrink her down to Mario's size, but not look like she's been like reduced. That was challenging because I think originally, if you go back to your history a bit, like the game was meant to be Popeye. And so if you look at the scale of the characters, like Donkey Kong himself, the Kong is Brutus or whatever that character's name is in Popeye, and then Popeye is Mario, and then Olive Oil, who's bigger than Popeye, that's what Pauline is. So it's like the scale is Popeye scale. So it's hard to shrink her down and then animate her and all that stuff, and you have to make up frames like when she's jumping, like what does it look like when she jumps and all that sort of stuff. So that was the most challenging part. And then getting the colors and everything right and putting it all back in was pretty easy because those old games didn't have like what they have now where like CRC checks them to see if you hacked the ROM or if you hacked anything and that kind of stuff. So it's like you can change all you want and it'll just work or it won't work.
Challenging, but still doable overnight.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, like, until I did that, there's a lot of people who have been hacking the games. And I think the reason this hack got picked up so much is because it was also at the same time that Anita Sarkeesian started releasing her videos about women versus tropes in video games. And so there's a lot of dialogue that started right at the same time, and I had no idea what that was. And then here comes this hack that I did. So then feminism and gaming and all this stuff was just starting to explode at that point as a point of discussion. And so this thing just happened, and I happened to do this at the right time that it got lift from that, I think.
And took on a whole new meaning from just a 3-year-old wanting to play a different character.
Exactly. Like, in fact, when we posted the video to YouTube of the game hack or whatever, a lot of the comments, which are like deleted now, whatever, you could see where it was all going to go a year later. Because some of these people were like, they were like on death threat levels to my 3-year-old daughter. Like, she needs to grow up in a world where this isn't what happens. And like she needs to be in her place and all this stuff. And it's like, oh my God.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. And you're just like, look, she wanted to play the princess because she can in Super Mario 2.
Had I known
they did it in the 80s with Super Mario 2. Why is it a problem now?
Yeah, like, why are you all upset now?
That's funny. So in the history of games, so I also, you can also be seen on the E.T. movie. Well, not the E.T. movie,
awesome.
but
I'm
the E.T. That would be cool. But the Atari movie about E.T. that's on Xbox Live.
Atari Game Over, which was the
Game Over.
Yeah, the documentary about the burial of the E.T. cartridges in the New Mexico desert. And
so prior to that, what was your thought on that? Like, did you know? I guess a lot of people said, "Oh, we knew they were there. That it was a matter of whether you could find them." Or did you? What was your take on, like when you knew that was going to take place? Like, were you fairly confident that they would find them, or?
I was fairly confident that they were buried there. I was not confident that they would find them in a million years, because who would know where they were buried and who would track that down?
Right.
I had worked for a game magazine called Next Generation here in the U.S., and the UK counterpart was Edge magazine. We were like sister magazines, and I was assigned the story of trying to figure out where the ET cartridges were buried. And so I spent a year off and on trying to figure out where they were. And I had gotten to the general location, but at that point, the person that I felt knew exactly where they were had passed away. And so it was kind of like the end of the trail for me. So I never really finished that story. So a friend of mine, Gary Whitta, was asked to be in the documentary, and he had mentioned to the director, Zach Penn, that, hey, my friend Mike, he knows a lot about this. You might want to talk to him too. So we hit it off really quick, and they came to my house. They interviewed me there, and we talked about all the aspects of where these things were, who to talk to, and all that stuff. So I got, I wouldn't say like super involved, but involved enough to help them out a bit. And I managed to get into the movie a little bit too.
Yeah. Yeah, that must have been pretty surreal. Like, I could only imagine, like, just.
Well, absolutely.
Especially when they found them, I mean, they were intact. I thought they looked pretty good for being buried for so long.
It was an amazing experience, and it was gonna be one of a kind experience. I had told my wife like months before going out there, I'm going to New Mexico to go to a dump to try to find some Atari games. She's like, whatever, just go do what you gotta do. I understand, like, you do this,
right?
And
right.
But I felt another reason I really wanted to do it is I had met Howard Scott Warshaw early in my career when I was still living in Michigan as like just out of high school. And somebody had given me his email address because I was making that Yars' Revenge game for Game Boy for fun before it became a published game. And they're like, you should talk to Howard. He made the original one. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I got his email address and I sent him an email. And it was kind of weird and how like the universe works, because he was like, I'm going to be out actually in Michigan, right next to the city next to where you are at in a week. He's like, we should get together and we could talk about Yars' Revenge. I'm like, this is amazing. So I'd never met a game developer before that. It was just my friends and I making games on a computer. So we drove out to his hotel. My friend Bob Baffy, who does the audio and the voice in IDARB, and we met Howard, and he talked all night to us. He regaled us with these crazy stories of Atari and stuff, and he also imparted all this crazy advice that I've taken all the way through my career. And one of the best bits of advice that he had given me was just to make sure that whatever you do, just keep it as simple as you can, and so simple that it creates the complexity to a game experience. And so he would sit there and beat me up about this over the years, actually, because I would ask his advice over and over again, and it always came back to that. He's like, just super simple. Like, anybody should be able to pick it up, but make sure that complexity is there afterwards so that people can continue to play it and discover like the fun of the game. And he gave me all these examples of it and all this stuff. So whenever I was down in the dumps in my career or whatever, I'd always shoot him an email or whatever. And this guy was so upbeat. Yet at the same time, he was often villainized as the guy who destroyed the game industry because he had done E.T. for the Atari 2600, and it was just popular. It was a popular notion that Howard's game destroyed the game industry, and I knew better than that, and everybody knows better. Not one single game could destroy the game industry. The reality
would be impossible.
Yeah, it'd be totally impossible. It was just very bad business practices that were going on that just tanked the whole thing. And games didn't necessarily go away. Like a year later, the NES comes out and everything's back. But Howard continued to have, I think, the stigma, because no matter where he worked, wherever he went, people always viewed him as the guy who destroyed video games. And so that was kind of a sad side. He was always upbeat. He would always joke about it. Like, he would work with Todd Fry at, I think, 3DO at one point. I remember him telling me how funny it was that he and Todd Fry are sitting by each other, and they put up their games like Pac-Man for 2600 and E.T. for 2600, and they're like, yeah, we killed the game industry and all these kind of things. But I always sensed underneath it that like he did feel pretty bad about that, because like he was, before E.T., he was a shining star in game development. People looked at him and talked about him as this genius who could do almost anything. And he had worked on Yars' Revenge. He did Raiders of the Lost Ark for 2600, which was a pioneering game. And he had all these other games that he had worked on and whatnot. And it came down to E.T. being the thing that kind of just put the brakes on everything. And like, not only that, but like his whole career there at Atari was amazing. Atari was amazing. And then E.T. comes out and then it all kind of like falls apart. I think even he started to believe a little bit of that myth. So when it came time to do this, in my mind, I'm like, people really need to understand Howard's story. And I had no idea how the documentary was going to go down. I don't know if they were even going to talk to Howard, but I kept pushing for it, and I think everybody else did too. And so when I heard he was going to New Mexico, I'm like, I have to be there when he's doing this, because he had given me so much advice, and he was so grounded and like important to me when I was getting into games, that I'm like, I want to be there when like he finally gets vindicated on this. So we're all there, and it was actually, it got pretty emotional when they finally pulled the games out, and when you finally realize that it wasn't just E.T. that was buried there. In fact, E.T. was just a small percentage of what was there. It was everything Atari had created. Atari 5200, 2600. It was just like, it painted the picture that the reality is Atari was just imploding all across the board, and E.T. had like just one small bit to do with it.
They just got the face of it.
Exactly. And so he did get vindicated. People there, and the number of people that showed up, like he came out, we were out there, but there was one moment, it was like, it felt like Lawrence of Arabia when you see like hundreds of people walking through the desert to come witness this event.
Right.
And they were all wanting to get pictures with him. They're hugging him. They're telling him how much they loved his games. There were people who loved E.T., genuinely loved that game, and were there to like support him and everything. So it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, that would have been, you could just feel it, you know, like even just watching it, you know, you could imagine, like, I couldn't imagine like what that would, because probably like if you rewind back 3, 4, 5 years ago or whatever, like at that point in his life, it was just, you know, he would never really realize that this sort of like full circle moment would ever happen to him.
Oh, not at
all.
What I mean? He was
probably had given that dream up years ago.
Exactly. He was so humbled on sight, and it was just like, it was raw emotion for him, because he could never have predicted this. And then the number of people that came out from all walks. I mean, Ernie Klein was there, the author of Ready Player One. You have Zach Penn, who's worked on crazy movies and all stuff, doing this documentary and like reviving this moment that was kind of painful but also amazing at the same time. And it turned out great.
Yeah, that was really awesome. I love that. So I guess we'll shift gears here and we'll go into IDARB, because it sounds like you've had a couple of like moments where, you know, something happens on like, say, like a Friday night, and then by Monday morning it's like, oh man, whoa, what happened? So it's happened again with IDARB, I think.
Yeah, these crazy lightning in a bottle moments.
Right. Like, so you're pretty good at those. So I guess, so IDARB started with a tweet, correct?
That's correct. I think it was January 3rd. I tweeted an image of a red box in a new programming, like kind of that kind of like a, I don't know how to, the engine. I pulled an engine together from off the shelf of a previous game, and I put this red box on it. And I'm like, what do I do with this? And so I did what I usually do. I just went to Twitter and I'm like, hey everybody, what do I do with this?
Right. So I'm sure that in January you weren't like, hey, by December we're going to have this really awesome thing and we're going to do this campaign, and by February our game will go to millions of Xbox subscribers.
Yeah, no.
So knowing that that's not your plan in January, I guess just kind of take us through like how does something happen? How did this lightning get in the bottle?
It's kind of funny because like these are those things where in hindsight you can make it sound like you knew exactly what you're doing, but we didn't, not any step of the way. Like, in fact, it was so organic that we were often asking ourselves here in the office, like, how far is this going to go, and why do people even like this? After that January tweet, I started getting responses back from a variety of people, like Tim Schafer and all these other guys who are basically other game developers, just having a laugh with it and throwing these ideas at it. And so I thought it'd be fun to just go ahead and throw everything that everybody was suggesting in and see if it would work. And my hope actually was that I could prove that too many cooks in the kitchen can destroy game design, and I could have a panel and I could talk about like, look, I opened up to the world, and here's what happens when you ask too many people their opinions. And so as we're putting this stuff in, like, it was already evident about 3 weeks after that first tweet, and we're playing it in the office, that it was turning into something kind of fun. And it was like, it was weird because we've never, you can make games for as long as I have, you don't really have moments like that very often. You usually fight to find the fun all the way up to the moment you ship the game, or at least the most fun that you can get out of it by the time you ship it. And we were already having fun, and with every new idea that was coming over, it got more fun. So it wasn't like we were just randomly putting them in and, you know, you say, like, see what happens. Like, we would do that a little bit, but at the same time, I would go out of my way to make sure that no matter how crazy the idea was, I would try to make it work. So I would tweak things to get it to fit in there. I wouldn't just be put it in and be like, okay, see, that's crap or whatever.
Right.
But it started to come together. I think the next big moment, I don't remember where it was on the timeline, but the next big moment was when Brandon Sheffield of Necrosofty, who's working on Gunsport, which is an awesome game, he just threw out, like, you should add something that everybody's, like, fighting over, like and he didn't say ball per se, but he basically described a ball. So it's like, oh, let's just put a ball in there and see what happens. And once we put that in, it changed it all, because before that it was a shooter. Everybody's just running around shooting at each other, and it was like, it's like a Titan or a Towerfall kind of thing. And what can we do that's different? So we put the ball in, and we took the guns out, the ball went in, it just became amazing after that.
And now you're like, we need goals now.
Yep, that's exactly we put in goals. We did and it was naturally, once that happened, and by the time we got to the ball game, we were only weeks away from Game Developers Conference, and then that's when Microsoft called. My old friend Chris Charla, he had called me and filled me in on this program they were announcing, the Idea at Xbox program. And he was following what was going on Twitter. He's like, you should bring it over. And I'm like, well, we don't even know how to get dev kits and all stuff. He's like, that's why this program exists. So they sent us some dev kits, give us all access to everything we needed. And in a matter of like 2 weeks, I think we had the thing ready to go to show at Game Developers Conference. And Microsoft had said that they wanted to support us by giving us some floor space. So we're like, oh, great. So we'll get this thing playable. We'll put it in there. And in my mind, I thought this was going to be like a little kind of like a lab setup where you see all other games in progress. But instead, when we showed up, we realized we're out on the main floor, and they put us next to Titanfall. And here we are with this unfinished game that's barely, like, in our minds, like, barely playable. And we're
like, you're presenting now.
Yeah, they're putting us next to these guys, and it was just we felt horrible at the time. But we're like, all right, let's make the best of it. And then not only that, they also put us to some other event too. So it was just like we felt like we were just going to be the laughing stock of Game Developers Conference. But when the doors opened and people came by and started playing, it quickly became apparent that people actually really liked the game, and they would come back with their friends. And I'd say probably by the third hour in of the first day, we had a crowd of people that never dissipated. It was always about 3 or 4 people deep.
Wow.
And I think our peak, we had like 25 people crowded around one screen, everybody like cheering each other on and all stuff. And I think Microsoft, ourselves, and everything, we were just kind of floored by the fact that people found this really charming and fun to play. And I remember after the show, we're kind of like, I guess we have to make the game. And we're all really busy. We're working on other games. So it's like, how do we get this game done? And how do we even move it forward? And it wasn't long after that Microsoft called and said, like, we want it at E3 too. And it's like, oh, no, we got to add stuff to this. And now we got to, like, put in real audio. We had all this temp audio and stuff. So it was a scramble. And most of that work was done after hours. I would go home and put the kids to bed and then get my laptop out and start working on IDARB.
That's crazy.
So it's more of a side project.
It really was up until, I'd say, August and September. We're like, okay, now we got to really put as much time as we can, because that's when everybody was finally off of other stuff to help out.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's the moment when you kind of realize, like, wow, we've really got something here. Like, maybe this is...
That's basically it. We would take it to various shows, even local shows, and people would show up just to play the game. And that was like an indicator that, okay, this dumb thing we made, for whatever reason, is attractive to people, and I think we got to take it seriously and get it out the door.
I think that's what I like about it. Like myself, like there's, recipes in there for like just stuff like, I mean, that seems so out of place, but it's like I wouldn't want it without it. Like
you've even made some of them, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I've got we're gonna make them for the Super Bowl this weekend. I think awesome. The sliders.
Oh, good. That's the Chris Charla sliders.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, we put actual real-world recipes into IDARB as things that are unlocked via achievements. So it was one of those things where I don't remember where it came from. It came from some random place, and we're laughing about, like, what if you did put recipes in? And it was like, well, we're laughing about it. Let's put recipes in.
Right.
Then we went out and we asked people for recipes. Yeah, so we went out and we found, like, one of my favorites is Caitlyn Oliver's teriyaki chicken recipe in there, and what I like about her is, like, this is where we're getting recipes from. She is the world record holder on Slaughterhouse Arcade. And we're like, let's get a recipe from her.
And she also has a recipe for teriyaki chicken.
Yeah, because I would see her posting these recipes, and I'm like, she makes this amazing food, and put 2 and 2 together. And like Abby Heppy, who's a friend of ours who's over at Respawn, she's the voice of Titanfall. She's the one who says, like, prepare for Titanfall and that stuff. And a coworker here went to a party and witnessed her making her mother's pumpkin bread recipe. And so he reached out, and she's like, sure, why not? And so we even have her, if you go to the pumpkin bread recipe when you unlock it, if you go in and out of it, like if you go in and then cancel and go back in, at some point you will hear her voice come on and say, prepare for pumpkin bread. And it's like in the Titanfall voice. We just put it as a fun little Easter egg, and like, I love that stuff.
Oh, I'm like the huge fan of Easter eggs in video games. Like, I think it should be a staple of every video game. Like, you have to put in some Easter egg.
Every game I've ever worked on, we've put in at least one Easter egg, and it's usually been something really stupid. Like, it goes way back to, I think, Clax that I did for Game Boy Color. We had developer dress up, which had us had our faces, and you're dressing us up in tutus and stuff like that. And I even hid my proposal to my wife in that game. And she wouldn't find it for 4 years, but I put it in at the time. And then finally, Tips and Tricks magazine posted the code and said, like, put her name in there, going, like, this code is especially for you. So I left that out for her, and that's how I proposed to my wife. So
that's awesome.
Always put Easter eggs in games.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And what was her reaction to that? Was she just... Because did you say the game was 4 years old at that point?
It was. Like, I had been making games for a while, and when I worked on Clax, I wanted to work on Clax because my wife was always like, I don't like any of the games you make, but if you made a puzzle game, maybe I'd play it. I'm like, great, I can do this Clax port, and she'll play it. She didn't even touch it. And it took leaving the magazine out with her name in it and everything else to get her to finally put the code in.
You're having these moments and she's thinking, when are you going to propose to me? And you're like, I did 4 years ago, but you didn't play the game.
It's kind of like that where it's like she would drop hints, but I'm like, I can't. I did this. Like, I got to get this to work.
Right.
And it all pre-planned.
Play this game.
Yeah, don't talk to me about getting married. Just play this game.
Right. Believe me. So so then later, I guess, would come the hash bombs.
How did they come about? Was that an actual tweet that someone said, or did you just suddenly think, like with the whole everyone helping you on Twitter, did you think, well, how can this keep going in the game?
It was a little bit of because the game, a lot of the ideas came from Twitter. We're like, how do we integrate that? And then also we had a previous game proposal that we had worked on that I wish would have seen the light of day. Maybe it will now, but you'll see ads in the game for High Score Hero, and that was a previous game.
I did see that
we were working on that had Twitter, Twitch, and all kinds of social integration, and it celebrated the culture of video games and video game lifestyle. So imagine like Earthbound meets Animal Crossing meets video, like The Wizard, basically.
Oh wow!
And it was a big game, and it had all this stuff, and there were like these birds that would fly around in the world and say things that your friends on Twitter are saying, and all this kind of weird stuff. And there's ways that you could meet up by tweeting to each other and affect things in the game and all this stuff. So we had already thought a lot about that, but we didn't really have a good application for it. And to be perfectly honest, everybody we would pitch it to, it was over their heads. They just didn't understand. They didn't think that was interesting enough, or they couldn't really grasp it. That was the bigger issue. And that's usually what happens when you do like this kind of stuff. So when we finally have IDARB here, and it's something that we have total control over, we love that idea. We're like, let's bring it over and let's finally see if this works out pretty well. And the moment that we got it working, it's like that probably the first time in your life when you see a magician, because it happened. I'm tweeting from my phone to the game. I'm watching things happen in the game, and it's like it felt like magic. And Kevin, who's my partner in crime and all this stuff, I thought he was Gandalf at that moment, because it was just like, this is amazing, and you did this, and it works.
So was
and
it,
you
was
just
it
start
difficult?
to think of all of the stuff you could do.
Was it difficult to actually get that to work? Did you have a lot of problems integrating the comments through?
I don't know if you guys are familiar
Twitch?
with that old painter Bob Ross that had that series on TV where he'd paint trees and
Bob Ross.
mountains, and he's like, if you made a mistake, it's like, oh, it's just a happy accident, let's make this a rock or whatever. That's like every step of IDARB has been like a Bob Ross painting. Everything was like an accident. Like the idea of how, like, we didn't really plan out how you would actually tweet to a game session. It was just a solve it on the spot really quick and cross your fingers and see what would happen. And usually it wouldn't happen the way you want it to, but something more amazing would come out of it. And so like the unique IDs we generate and all that stuff were all, at the end of the day, kind of happy accidents that we just extrapolated on and pushed further. So once that all started coming together, and the kind of game that we have, where it's like a multiplayer competitive game that people can grief, which is all that really was is an extension of what we used to do when I used to play Bomberman at my friend's house with all my friends. And the people who were playing and were waiting to get our turn in, we would sit there and like throw stuff at them. We'd do whatever. And so hash bombs were kind of that in my mind, where like, I'm just going to keep bothering all these people. And I remember the old rules we had, like, if you're going to like piss everybody off playing the game, like you have to piss everybody off. It can't just be one person. So we kind of developed our little rule set. And that's kind of what I carried over to IDAR. Like, well, you do a hash bomb, it has to affect everybody. And then how you get through it and everything like that. So it was kind of something from a previous project. And it was based off of a bit of experience playing old multiplayer games like Bomberman and NHL 94.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, because that's what I just started to think about. Like, well, we got Sniffles and I got the first one we tried to do was so we could unlock the achievement, to unlock the achievement bot. And when I had read about it and it said like, oh, you have to activate the achievement bot. I'm like, what the heck's the achievement bot? Like, where is that at? You know? So I realized like what it said, and I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, so these hashtags, like it affects the game. So we started going through them. And I was just like, holy cow. I was like, everybody could just come in and just do whatever they want to you. Like, I did the single player version, like where you can turn on automatic hash bombs. So they come like every, like, I don't know, 5 seconds or something. Yep. And it's just, it's insane. And like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, we could do this in real life. Like I could do it. Like, oh, he's about to score, freeze.
Well, when we started handing out codes, these early access codes or preview codes or whatever they are, like, it was amazing because the first person who started streaming, I think it was LSX9000, I think is his name on Twitter. Somebody in the office shouted like, somebody's streaming it. So we ran over there, and he had set everything up to stream. So he was the first person playing the game that streamed it. And I remember Glenn, one of our designers here, he typed in like the first hash bomb, which I think was Ricky. And we were just all shouting here because like it works because like until it's gone live, we don't like we're all panicked.
Right.
So we're watching it all happen, and we're like, and it's real, and this is something we started almost a year ago, and it's finally, it's happening. It was pretty amazing. But those hash bombs, it was pretty cool to do stuff like the achievement bot where we were kind of like, does this break any of the XRs for Xbox? They're really strict on things you can do.
Oh, right.
But because it was so unique, I don't think there was any way you could break the rules because nobody had thought about it yet. So there's
no rule for it.
Yeah,
right.
like an achievement that you can get by tweeting or Twitch, that sort of thing. But I think now, because of the way the game is, I don't think they would want to try to enforce that at this point.
Right. So would you say that all the hash bombs are out there in the wild? What did you think of my video? Was it have a pretty good list on there?
That's a really good list. I think you've got just about everything on the first release, TU1, which is coming up, I think hopefully in about 4 weeks. That will be adding a bunch. Probably, I think it's adding a dozen more. And then TU2 will be adding, I think, 28 more.
Oh, wow.
If I recall correctly. And they're growing. They're actually evolving a bit too. So we have the general hash bombs like you do now, but then there's compound hash bombs. So if there's snow and this other hash bomb combined creates something else, that sort of thing. And then I think we're going to be doing the verified hash bomb. I'm trying to work this out with Twitter. So you can actually get an achievement if you can get somebody who's a verified Twitter user to tweet to your game.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
What I liked about this, somebody had given us this idea. What I liked about it was like having all these people going out to celebrities and politicians saying, "Can you please tweet to my game?"
Someone who's not verified probably came up with the idea.
That's exactly it. That's brilliant. That's great. And then we have a couple other. The one I'm working on right now, I don't know if it's going to go in or not, but I've created this thing called a golem, which you can summon from Twitch or Twitter. And it drops in this little stone player, like a little character, but then it's like Twitch plays Pokemon in a way. Like everybody tries to steer, like a potato sack race. Everybody tries to go right, left, jump, and try to control him from Twitch chat.
Nice.
Which he just annoys people when he's in the thing, but it's kind of janky, and I don't know how well it's going to actually work in practice. But
and it'll be amazing because someone will because you know how people are, like someone will be able to score with that guy.
I know, that'll
be.
be.
You're just like, I thought this was impossible,
and they'll share the video, and you'll be like, I can't believe that happened.
Right. That's
funny. Were there many hash bombs that you did that you've had to ditch? I would have thought you've probably gone through lots of things and trialed lots of different hash bombs. Certain things, I guess, wouldn't work so well,
Well, we had like switching the goals, which was just broken, and I wanted to get that one in. But for the first update coming up here, you actually can turn on the option to, after every quarter, switch sides. So I finally figured it out, but I'm putting it as an option for people to do. There was some stuff that it was too unfair to one team or the other, so we just kind of pulled that out because that gets a little brutal. You want to encourage people to turn on hash bombing and not feel like if they turn it on, people are just going to be all against their team and not the other team and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So both sides are laughing when
exactly
when it happens, right?
So there's always stuff like power up some user or do this sort of thing or drop a power up and that sort of stuff that was in the game. We pulled out because until we actually figured out how to balance it very effectively, it won't go back in. So there's a lot of those, and some of those that were pulled last minute like that are trickling back in the title updates. Right. And then we've got some crazy new ones that people have been kind of submitting that are pretty cool. And then new modes too that we'll be introducing, like the ability to switch sides, but also the halftime game mode, like a halftime Olympics, because some people just want to play the halftime games. And so,
like combat.
Exactly.
I love that.
And so we're going to string those all. Like it'll allow you to create a playlist, and then you guys can all play online or local through all the halftime shows, and actually score based off your victories and stuff in those.
So you do like a first to 5 wins, or
exactly,
something like that.
The best of or whatever. And we're going to be adding some new halftime shows too.
I like the duck one.
Yeah, people really like the duck one. The duck one. It's similar to some other game, but
I remember when we the first one we ever did when I played the Scratch was, I think is it just like a running one where you have to wiggle the thumbstick?
Yeah, the decathlon.
I could hear you. I could hear your thumbstick like going over the headset.
Back and forth. I'm like, I'm gonna lose a controller over this,
There's people
but I'm
lost
not gonna lose this race
already. I've got pictures from people who would send me pictures of their limp, hanging, like drooping right analog stick.
I was like, is this worth winning?
Hey, it was.
You won it. Yeah, I know.
Victory at all cost.
I can buy another controller. That's all right.
I liked some of my favorite hash bombs. I think my favorite one is probably got to be Fizz.
Oh,
just because of the comment that comes with it. Sniffles gave everyone diarrhea. And that came from every time.
That came from Bomberman, because there was a bomb in Bomberman that we used to, because we'd always import it, so we didn't actually know what the poisons were. And there's one that you would get, and you just would not stop dropping bombs. So it would just be like, oh man, he's got diarrhea, and everybody would run away from him. And then later on in a later version of Bomberman, they called it Bomberia, which I was so like, oh, we probably had it right.
All right.
Ones that I think work well are and I'm sure easy for you to add more, the visual ones, like the Minecraft and Oktoberfest, and it's just
I like the
it just gets you laughing. Like you just forget that it's in there, and you're like, oh my god, I'm now a cow or a pig or
a werewolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, the werewolf one, yeah.
Those are the easy ones, and I think we're gonna have a bunch of those, and then we do want to put in some that are like more meaningful, like endorsing whoever's streaming. So people can get endorsements now, so it's like likes. So if you stream a lot, you'll be displaying like how endorsed is that streamer. So if they've got a lot of endorsements, they've probably been streaming it a lot, and people like them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
Subtle things like that are gonna be in there, and then ultimately we're trying to work towards a big update for the game, which is gonna add in an even larger mode that's gonna reinforce the endorsement stuff, plus tournaments and all that sort of stuff. So
nice.
We're working on what that's gonna be and when to announce that.
Cool. Yeah, that would definitely. I mean, the game definitely lends itself to those sort of changes. Like, I mean, there's, you can go anywhere with it, and we had a blast with it. I think we played all night that first night we got the code.
We didn't stop.
It was like a constant barrage of messages. What is that? What are you playing? What is that? What are you playing? And I'm like, it's IDARB. I was like, you've never heard of IDARB? I was pretending like I knew I didn't.
You're not.
But
no,
like,
what's wrong with you people?
I'm like, what? IDARB? You didn't hear? But yeah, we played for a while. We were streaming and hash bombing each other and
even what I do like though is I went back home over Christmas to my family, and I was like, oh, how am I gonna show them how it works? If I stream it on Twitch, probably not that many people are going to be looking at it. And I just gave my sister my phone, and went on my Twitch channel, and then she was just typing things in on there, just even sat next to me, and it's just as fun.
Oh yeah, that's usually how it happens. My son and his friends come over and they play the game, and I just sit back, and then a couple of friends of mine or whatever will sit back and we'll put in the Twitch commands just to mess their game up. And it's just so simple. And that was the beauty of it all, is like you can use what you normally use anyways, like Twitter or Twitch, and affect the game live, it's really fun. It's helped it actually get kind of it started getting a little bit of popularity with bar scenes that have like game setups. Mm-hmm. So there's like 42 Lounge, there's another bar here locally, the New Parkway, and all these things where they will have an IDARB night, and then people are just sitting around drinking beers can affect the people who are playing the game in the bar, and it's a really social thing. And so we're going to amp that up as much as we can, because we're realizing that's how it's being played a lot. It's a party game at its core. And then the esports side of it too is got a lot of potential. So I've been going through and really tightening up things that would prevent it from being taken seriously as an esport. Not that it ever should be or not, but it was just like there's people who really want it to. So there's simple things that we can do
on Twitter.
Yeah, and so I can tighten that up and follow the guidelines that people expect for esports well enough, I think. So I'm going to get that all sorted out, and then just see where it goes from there.
It only can go up, I think. It's awesome. I mean, it's just so much fun to play. It's so unique, I think that's what draws me to it. I mean, you guys won me on the credits. I mentioned that earlier. It was literally like watching, like, oh, there's all my neighbors and my friends, and I had that same Christmas, like looking at people like opening up
I've had these
opening
amazingly heartfelt emails too for that, where people are like, "I actually cried during your credits."
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I would never say I cried like on the podcast or something, but I'm telling you, it was. If I would say that. I mean, it was just like, wow. I started looking through like my old stuff, and I was like, man, I still have a lot of that stuff too.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, it really was because it was such a labor of love. I wanted to make sure that the team was represented well that way, and the only way I knew how to represent it was to show everybody in their purest form when they were younger with video games as much as we could, because that's where it all comes from, right? Like you guys and everybody you meet who's a gamer, it's like it started somewhere, and so it was like, I have to get that in. And then Bob came through with that song, which was amazing.
Oh my god, that song was awesome.
So good.
He's like, I want to do a special song, do you mind? I'm like, no, go for it. And he didn't give me any insight in what he was doing, and it's like probably 2 days later the song shows up, and I listened to it, I'm like, this is so good. And we got a new song too, because for every update we have new contributions, so we had to create another credits list. So Bob just delivered a few days ago the second song, which is pretty good.
That's great. Yeah, I love between the song and then the announcements when you score, just shouting out things from 80s movies I watched when I was young, or Mrs. Doubtfire, I think, was in there or something. And it was just like, I at first I didn't realize what they had said, and I'm like, did he just say what I think he said? So I started paying attention to it, and there's just some hilarious lines in there.
Well, it comes from not really, I like sports, but I'm not the biggest sports fan. I play video games more than I watch sports. And so whenever I watch sports, just what they're saying just goes over my head. So
right.
So for IDARB, I'm like, it feels like a sports game. So it's just it doesn't, and I don't want to program a lot of logic to an announcer and say so-and-so passes to so-and-so. And also, so I'm like, let's just have some guys shouting stuff, because it's right. It's what it's like to watch sports for me.
Right.
We'll just go with it.
That's funny.
And there's people who they hear certain lines, they'll hear that's what happens to a stranger, or this is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps, which is the TV dub of The Big Lebowski, I think. Okay. So people they've quoted that TV dub line thinking that they're hilarious because nobody will understand what they're saying, and then when they hear it in the game, I've had somebody write me and go I am a fan of any game you make now for the rest of your life, because that is one of my favorite lines ever, and you guys put it in a game.
Right, yeah. That's how I felt. I mean, it was so funny. I started I got to the point here a couple of weeks ago, actually right after I did the well, you notice I paused in the hash bomb video. I paused and just let one of them play. After I did that, I was playing single player games for the rest of the day just to try to listen to all of them.
We're adding, so funny. I think it's 29 or 39 more VO lines in the update. And my favorite that I've heard so far that Bob took from the list, or I think he maybe even added it, was I think he says and that's how babies are made.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it was just so. It's just like I said, it's so unique. I think everybody will be excited.
I can't wait till everyone starts getting it.
You're right. I mean, I probably won't even play in the first part of February. I'm heading straight to Twitch.
Oh, yeah. Destroy people's games and also gift out achievements.
Right. Exactly. I mean, if I watch your stream, you're popping an achievement, because that's the first one I go and they'll be like, hey, I just got an achievement for what?
Your order of your hash bombs are #achievement and then #reverse every time.
Right. Yeah.
I love the reverse thing, because you spend a while to suddenly realize that it's reversed, then you're doing it reversed, and then you don't know when it switches back.
Well, what you do is I found if you do reverse first, and then right before it's supposed to switch back, do the moonwalk one, so the character changes. That really gets in your brain. I don't even care what your IQ is. You can't figure that out. It's you just don't even know what to do. I'm just going to stand here for a second because I can't do it. I got to
just shake this off. There's some good combos because the boo hashtag doesn't wait for the text to come. It just activates when it knows it's ready to queue up. So it's something you can, if I remember this correctly, one of the most volatile and toxic ways to get somebody is to do I think it's reverse, then lasers, and then boo, because boo will come up just as reverse hits. and will go off the screen as lasers activate, and there's nothing you can really do other than die or go to the penalty box. It's brutal.
Right.
Barrel roll if you want to throw in some extra salt to the wound.
Right.
That one gets me every time.
Yeah, the barrel roll does.
And the beauty of griefing with hash bombs that I found after the fact is I love how I watch somebody streaming and then somebody will complain about a hash bomb going like, oh, I freaking hate that hash bomb. Then to look at the Twitch stream and watch everybody just do it over and over and over and over and over again. It's like, oh, I love everybody.
Another thing that I really like is obviously the customization. That's always been a big thing for me. But did that relate back to the whole Donkey Kong thing with your daughter, that you can create any character you want and you can be anyone you want?
Absolutely. If I learned anything from that whole Donkey Kong hack or whatever, it was that people really valued the ability to create their own persona and something that reflects who they are.
Yeah.
And so that became, that was number one when it came down to the characters. Like it became like, well, do we have a lot of characters that people can pick from? To why not just let anybody make any character they want? Yeah. And in fact,
giving them as much choice as they want.
Exactly. And there was an artist for Kotaku did an amazing comic. I got to go find. I would love to get it, the original, and just frame it. Where she was critiquing what Ubisoft had said about having no female avatars in, I think it was Assassin's Creed Unity at the time. Mm-hmm. And but she started the comic with, I was playing IDARB and I was a glass of orange juice, then a princess, then bacon, then whatever. And she's like saying all this stuff, and then the final frame is like the announcement from Ubisoft saying, well, female characters are just too hard to do or something like that. I'm like, that's it in a nutshell. I wanted to make sure that no matter what, if somebody just wanted to be a glass of orange juice, they can be a glass of orange juice. And that's what they want to be.
Also with the characters, it was great being able to create something, and then I just emailed Scratch all of my QR codes and he added them into his game, and it was nice being able to share those really easily with people.
I wish everybody had the Kinect, because that QR code tech is pretty fun. Yeah. And when we showed the game for the first time to the public in March, we had created t-shirts for ourselves that had QR codes of who we were. So it was this weird trick that people really liked, where I'm standing in front of the game. I have a t-shirt on with a QR code on it. When you scan that QR code, me standing there with a QR code on my shirt and the game shows up. And it was like a mind-blowing experience for people. We gave Phil Spencer a shirt at that show with his character on. So he had a shirt, he put it on, and he stood in front of the camera, and he saw himself come to the game. And I think that was probably the moment that he got excited about the game too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely it was pretty cool. I mean, we were going through because we were downloading characters, and then you can modify them, and we were like making our own. I think I downloaded a Game Boy. I was a Game Boy in one of them.
I made like a little Super Meat Boy, and it's just, you could just do whatever, and it just suddenly in the middle of playing, like, oh wait, I can go make this character, and then you'll stop playing and go make some more. And
it's fun. I still like doing it, and I love downloading codes. There's somebody who posted, I forgot which site it was. Somebody posted just random codes with no reference. And so it was fun to scan those and see what they were. And I was like, oh, this is going to be really scary. But they were really nice sprites. So I think he plucked them randomly from other people, and it was just a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Do you have any plans for people without Kinect, and how they're going to be able to easily get other people's character designs into their games?
Yeah, in fact, I think, well, I can't make promises in the first update, but maybe by the second update, what we want to do is actually allow you to subscribe like an RSS feed to any Twitter users. So if you're posting QR codes, what's going to happen is you go to this mode, and you see on the left-hand side like all the people you're subscribed to, and you can scroll through it. And when you go to this mode, you'll see these little presents popping up, and the present is actually, it found a QR code that's an IDARB code. And then you scroll down to somebody and you go over and you click the button on the present, and it'll do a little presentation, Nintendo style or whatever, and then pop up with if it's a character or a logo or a piece of music or whatever. So that's going to be the alternate way to do it. And I think for the long run, that's the way a lot of people will probably want to do it. And it will probably allow you to post straight from the game as well. But it requires authenticating with Twitter and all that stuff. So we didn't do it the first time around.
Right.
So we really wanted it to be easy to integrate all this stuff the first time around.
So I could essentially subscribe to your Twitter, and then anything you retweet,
Yep.
it could potentially then be there the next time I load up the game.
Exactly. What the game will do is actually grab the image that's been tweeted, look at it, and say, "Is there a QR code here?" If it finds one,
wow.
then it checks to see if the ID that's in there is a logo, music, or a character. And if it's one of those things, it'll pull it in and create a little present on screen that you can open up.
That's cool. Nice.
So a lot of so December, I guess. I mean, at least that's when I heard about it, or heard more about it. I guess I did see the somebody had mentioned the character creator to me. I think November sometime. It wasn't very much before you guys started. Before you guys started tweeting that you were looking to give away some codes and get some people playing and do some tests. But how has your view of the game changed or evolved since you've seen like the public reaction that's not like people from their homes and not at like say E3 or at an event?
Well, I think the first thing, we were very relieved that people understood it. I talked to Chris Charla just days before I started handing out codes, and he's heard me like this before, but I was just like in this total mode of like, no one's gonna like this thing. I don't even like. So like on the eve of releasing the game out to the public, I'm like, it's doomed. Nobody's gonna like it. It's just too weird, and I was just freaking out on him. And he's like, it's gonna be fine. And but since it's come out, like to watch everybody's reactions be so positive, and to watch like even in this kind of preview state we're in, to watch a community come up out of nowhere is just mind blowing to me. And the people who've come to the game's support and talk about it and share and do all stuff are like, these are people I want to hang out with all the time. It's just like you realize that there's so many other people like you out there, and they enjoy all the same things, and you wouldn't know that when you're working on some big property for a movie or this or that or whatever. To have it to have that kind of community at arm's length and to like pull them close and talk to them about stuff is just amazing. The tools that we have now, like all the social tools and everything surrounding game development, is unlike anything before. Like I remember. It reminds me so much of when I was a kid making games on my Commodore 64 and inviting all the kids in the neighborhood to come over and give me ideas and work with them on making it better and drawing designs and all stuff. It's like now in this day and age, I can do that with anybody around the world, and it's so easy. I can just do it from the comfort of my couch and a laptop, and I'm making a game. It's just mind blowing. So when this thing's been out and seeing everybody's reaction and their suggestions and all stuff, it's so easy to start acting on this stuff. Things like with the multiplayer, like we know console versus console is challenging for people because they want to play 8 people across 8 Xboxes. The way the game is so fast and the way we built it, it was never really intended to be online. And so we had to do a lockstep method of online play. If we go outside of that comfort zone, then we have to rebuild the game. And actually what that requires is that we slow the game down quite a bit. So we didn't really want to sacrifice that, but we are working on like getting more Xboxes. I think we can probably, I'm not sure yet, but it looks like we could probably do 4. And if we get 4 Xboxes with up to 2 players each or whatever configuration, then I think we've at least satisfied some requirement there by a lot of people. Yeah. And so the thing is, like having all this feedback come back, somebody would complain about that, and I'd be like, hey, here's what the issue was, and here's what we're trying to do. And they come back going, oh, I love the game though, and if you guys can do that even more, like how can I help and all stuff. So again, like no one's been really evil to us yet. And maybe it's the credit song because we tell them not to, but
I think it is the credit song.
But everybody's been just amazing, and they're so understanding of any of the shortfalls we have in the game right now. And I think they understand too that the game is evolving even after launch. And we've been trying to make that really clear that this is not the end of it. It's going to keep evolving. We loved how Minecraft evolved over time, and we want to be like, our big dream would be it'd be awesome to be the Minecraft of esport games or sport games. And that sort of thing. I don't think we'd ever get close to Minecraft, but like that the way it evolved on that level, I think would be awesome to get to.
Right, and I think a lot of people understand too. I mean, you're literally pioneering a whole new thing. I mean, there's at least in my eyes, there's no game out there that does this. There's wacky games out there, and there's games that take risks out there. But like, it's almost like this whole game is a risk almost, because like you said, before you released it, you're like, will people understand it, or do they even, but it turns out we do. But
yeah, it's
just so much innovation.
Oh, thanks.
I guess. In this.
I always hate to throw the innovation word around because it used to be like a joke in the office where like, to really innovate, we're going to need 6 months. And, it's like, how do you actually quantify that? But you're right, because this is stuff we'd never done before either. And so when we would throw it in, I think the reason we felt like it was a miracle every time we try something and be like, why is that fun? Is because of that. We didn't really know what impact it was going to have until we put it in. Then when we saw it, we liked it, but then it was like, we had no comparison. I've worked on so many games where early on in production, even during the design phase, a lot of publishers I work with create the competitive document where they do comps. They're like, well, your game is 60% Shadows of Mordor, 20%, NHL, this, whatever. Oh, right. It's like with IDARB, where do you go with that? It's like, it's 5% of everything, or, it's like, it's really hard to do it. So my mind even works in that old fashioned way. We're making this where I'm like, I couldn't put it in a box. A red box. I couldn't put it in anything that made sense. And so it was hard for me to really be confident about it before we started putting it out there. And even at the shows, I'm like, well, I've had people crowd around games before. Like, let's not get too, excited about this. And so it's a big relief where we are right now. Right. Who knows where it goes in a month? It launches and everybody's like, this thing's a steaming pile or whatever. But like, it's amazing to get this far with something so odd and weird. And I'm so excited to see where it goes from here, because I don't want to go down any predictable path. I want to maintain that, like, well, anything can kind of happen here and see what comes out of it. I don't want to destroy what exists now for the sake of that, though, because like clearly it's really fun and that's really cool. So we're just going to keep tweaking it a little bit here and there, work with all the players to make sure that what we're doing then at this point is just additive and more fun and more substantive for people.
I think that's why people really enjoy it, is because there is nothing else like it, and it's completely different to anything else you played. When I first heard about the hash bombs and someone explained it to me, I was like, whoa, so what is it? What can I do? and I thought that, and then I read it somewhere else. I was like, am I reading this wrong? I was like, how can you do that in a game? Or I haven't seen that before, and I assume people are going to try and follow suit and have their take on this whole integration and with viewers.
I think that's going to happen.
And it's going to be really interesting to see, like, what other developers can do and what other games that are going to come out that have this same sort of thing that you've sort of created.
I'm excited because I have so much fun with it right now with just this game. I can only imagine what you could do with that on other games. Like even FIFA. I would love to have that in FIFA. Even if it's just me like typing in something to make an annoying Vuvuzela sound or something.
Right.
Like, I'm all about it.
Right.
That would be a good hash bomb.
I think it's something that is going to take off. I mean, I think it's an amazing idea.
Well, we've got a couple more ideas that we're really excited about that we're holding back for various reasons, but I think it will help it get even to the next level. And if it all comes together and works like it looks like it's going to do, I think you guys would be happy with it too, because like it goes down this logical road of like, okay, now we have all this social integration. Now we have all this ability to share a game in a certain way and reach a large audience. And how do we extend that audience and then extend the gameplay to bring them in more and that sort of stuff? So all these crazy ideas, those ideas that were basically shot down when we were pitching a different game, are the things that I think IDARB's success hinges on now. And to take those to their logical next step is going to be really fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. So I guess we can expect it we have it now, but I mean, we can expect it for everybody. Is it going to be, it'll be February 1st, I think?
Yeah, February 1st. Even we didn't really know. Yeah. Like, we kept being told February, but they came back and said February 1st. So on Super Bowl Sunday, you'll be able to download IDARB and play your alternative sports game, defy the world, and play your anti-football game.
And try some new food as well.
Yeah, and try some new food. Hey, you know what? Yeah. Maybe download it before the game starts. Unlock a few achievements.
and get some.
Yeah.
And get some.
Get that corn dip going.
Yeah. I'll have it in, so I'll let you know what I think. We're gonna try some of them this coming weekend. I've got a few we're gonna make.
Hey, and if you have any special recipes you think belong in IDARB, let me know, because we're gonna be doing title updates and we need to extend that too. I think what a lot of people are gonna be excited about is we're talking with Microsoft now about how we extend the gamer score and that sort of thing, and how far we can go with all that with updates. And so I think we'll be doling out more gamer score with new updates.
we can give you gamer score ideas. That's what our whole podcast is actually based on.
So please do. That would be awesome, actually.
We love achievements.
I definitely trust from what you've done already that you'll bring out some fun achievements.
There's a couple of weird ideas.
But that's good, the title though. I love when people actually put effort into the achievements and think about them rather than just stick them on or score 50 times. It's like, okay, that's an all right achievement, but it's nice when they're fun and they're interesting. And
well, we wanted to go back to Howard's original thing that he gave a long time ago. We wanted achievements that were, easy enough to get but fun to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we built on. We're like, we can sit there and make those. There's this impossible game that's just so hard to get this last one, or let's just like if they get this achievement, they should be laughing and want to get the next one because they're funny or whatever. And
you don't want it to be grindy, and you don't want people to start hating the game because of achievements, which I've done many times with games. And
I was gonna say you grind all the time.
And there was somebody here in the office was telling the story how they would I forgot where it was Skyrim or something, where they had put a rubber band on the stick because it had to fly in circles for so long before it like an achievement. And I'm like, you don't need people doing that.
Right.
It's not a good achievement if you have.
So many people will even buy games for achievements, and some people don't realize that people people go for them like crazy.
And hey, I was responsible for one of the hardest achievement games ever because the game was way too difficult and we probably needed 3 more months on it, which was War of the Worlds. A totally polarizing game. Like reviews were 20s out of 100 and 100 out of 100. So it was this weird thing. Wow. But the real problem was it needed 3 more months. And so it was so hard. It was one of the most difficult games ever. And I think only 3 people in the world have ever beaten it. And it's not for people the lack of trying. It's just that hard. And I remember getting all the hate mail.
Like vulgar hard.
Yeah, vulgar hard, definitely. Because I got so much hate mail about that from people who were trying to unlock the achievements from it and get the gamer score out of it.
Yeah. Well, that sounds good. I guess we'll wrap up there. We got a lot of good information here, and we're really excited. I'm even more excited now for February 1st to come, just because you'll find me on Twitch. I will be on Twitch and I will be in all of your streams.
We're doing the most horrible combinations ever.
Yeah. I gave somebody a code and they're like, I downloaded it, but I have more fun on Twitch just bombing games.
Right. Right. I'm sure I'll play with some of these new people, but they're getting hash bombed first.
Yeah, it's really fun.
So anyways, Mike, I really appreciate you. I know we went a little bit longer probably than we had originally anticipated, but I really appreciate you sitting down with us and just talking video games. I could do it all day, but probably these people listening have places to be, so we'll do them a favor.
Yeah, I could do it too. And next time you guys want to chat, just let me know, because we'll have, of course, updates for IDARB, but I could talk about video games forever.
Cool. All right, I appreciate it, and thanks for coming.
Thanks very much.
My pleasure. Please don't send that tweet. Don't you rage upon